Hello, everybody. My name is Arshi Yasin, co-founder of The Bridge. Welcome you all to this beautiful conversation which we'll be having with a very special guest named Fatima Agarkar. Fatima, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you so much. It's indeed a pleasure and excited to be in conversation with you, and we promised it's going to be impromptu. So I'm looking forward to your questions.
Yeah. You know, at times the guests, they ask for the outline of the conversation. But, I felt very good when you said that you are okay with impromptu. I said, "Fir to aur bhi maza aayega." So I was really looking forward to this conversation. So for the audience, let me tell you, Fatima Agarkar is the co-founder of ACE, Agarkar Center of Excellence Sports Edu. Now, before we jump into that part of the conversation, let me tell you guys that Fatima calls herself as edupreneur. People call themselves as entrepreneurs, and then there are educationists. And now we have a combination of two, which is education and entrepreneur. So, Fatima, how did your journey start with it?
Actually, the word symbolizes a lot of what my journey has been. I started actually as a commerce student, wanting to do my MBA, wanting to become a banker, and the path is very cut out. You don't think beyond because that's what you've studied for. A short while into the banking and the consultancy and the management space, I just realized that perhaps I'd made a mistake. While I loved what I did, which was statistics and research and marketing, fortunately for me, I landed up doing a lot of work in the education space. And then I realized that children were learning just the way I had. And I passed out, 20 years ago. And if they were learning in the same way that I did, there was definitely a problem that this country was going to encounter. I wanted to be a part of a solution. Honestly, back then, I just partnered with people who were in the education space, and it's just grown from there. I quickly amass those degrees because it's very important to, I'm from the corporate world, very important to understand educational qualifications. And actually, after understanding the education qualifications, I felt it was more important for me to be in education because we needed to bring relevance. We needed to make it common sense. We needed to make it practical. Gone are those times where you just narrate what's in the book. I've been a victim of that. I pride myself with my English, but I didn't actually top it. Someone else did, who was giving those model answers simply because the memory was better than mine. Yeah. I could never remember anything, but I could explain it all. Unfortunately, they didn't give me marks for explaining. They wanted verbatim what was in there. So I think that got me going. Quite frankly, I think the journey just evolved. I found myself starting schools, setting up schools, learning on the job. And the kind of student I was, one of those geeks. You put in everything and you learn. And I'm a businessman's daughter. So quite frankly, very quickly in my career, I realized I can't work for someone. I need to lead. And I think those genes are inherent then when, you've watched your father build his empire. I think some amount of learning comes in. I'm hoping to pass that on to my son. So the combination is basically entrepreneurship, and I strongly believe in it. And using education as that beautiful relationship for the sake of the future of our country. And I bat for change. I'm very pro change, and I'm glad with the national education policy as well that talks about.
Just to continue the conversation, Fatima, actually what you are doing is extremely fascinating for me. Like, as you rightly said, our education system has not become adaptive with time. More so in the last probably 2 decades, and especially after the advent of the internet. Now we all are saying because of COVID, it's all like out of majboori. People, even the kids, they have to glue to their screen. But probably we weren't prepared for something like this. The entire education going digital. Like, it has happened not out of our choice, considering the COVID situation. So how do you think is your vision towards reforming education will be helpful in transforming the shift because of the current situation?
So I'm just going to correct you there. For the last 20 years that I have been in the education space, we've only spoken about a volatile world. in conferences, in seminars. We were all preparing for a world that we had no real control over, kind of what we're experiencing now. But you've rightly pointed out, while we spoke about it, we didn't have systems in place. Remote learning actually started in the 1800s. By 2000, many progressive countries across the world were already adopting blended learning. So, when we were caught off or caught, in the middle of the wicket, it was simply because we hadn't thought it would hit us the way it has. We needed to build infrastructure, and I mean IT infrastructure. Our teachers needed skilling. For the longest time, I know because I've been a managing trustee, I've had teachers resist technology. We'll write it. What is this Google Sheet? Why are you making us do it? It's too complicated. Very quickly, in 3 months, everybody learned.
Yeah.
So I know they were forced into it, but the skilling up happened because fundamentally there are inherent skills in these teachers. So the difference now is those who can't match pace will have to take a step back. I know a lot of the young ones have come in and really outperformed. Quite frankly, the world of tomorrow is going to have blended learning. So when we're talking about technology, I worry when parents call it screen time and excessive exposure, backache, eye ache. This year would have been a year of absolute disaster if we hadn't had technology.
100%. Yeah.
So going forward, I cannot imagine. I have a 15-year-old. I cannot imagine for 9 months he would be doing nothing. How many activity classes will you join? But they will also be online. So as a mother, I'd have to run from pillar and post to try and bring it together. That's why when schools went virtual, it's credit to the schools, who, by the way, should have done a lot more work before. And there are only a handful of schools in this country who were prepared. I know that progressive schools already were doing it during monsoon to test out virtual learning. Not because they thought a pandemic would happen, but they were ahead, foresight. And I think by default now everyone's building that foresight. Good things for the students, because I think technology makes it more relevant for the kids. Teachers are more creative. Kids can actually say, hey, listen, you're so super boring and I'll shut the screen off. So that means you have to be more motivated and you have to be more engaging. That means there's more teacher interaction with the students. Best part of this is the intel that we're generating about kids learning. How they're learning. Where is their gap area? What can we do to help? Customization, personalization, all the stuff we spoke about in conferences is now getting implemented in the virtual world. It's tougher. It's not easy. Hats off to the teachers. Hats off to the parents who, bless their souls, they're working, cleaning the house and have their kids on virtual schools. But quite frankly, if you think about the positives that have emerged, it's the intel that teachers have about student learning. It's what we can do to create better learning plans. This is the future. Blended learning will stay. Whether we get the vaccine or not, quite frankly, at least the next year, we'll see a combination of online and physical world. I think the future is always going to be this. We cannot resist it. We have to upscale. My problem is the government schools were caught out. They did not have the IT infrastructure and their teachers. But the government's also done a lot. Quickly, when you look at the national boards, they've come up with apps and programs that are thinking technology. And when an NEP, a National Education Policy, talks about Digital India, it can't be Digital India when we get into university. It has to be Digital India from the way we think. Finally, we'll have more thinkers than just duplicates.
Yeah, true. And now let's talk about ACE, which is Agarkar Center of Excellence. So this is quite interesting personally for me because into sports. And now, firstly, tell us, like for all of our audience, what does exactly ACE do?
Agarkar stands for, of course, our surname and my better half, who's been a sportsman, represented the country and, has learned a lot. Decided that he wants to also contribute, given that I was in the education space. So two very passionate individuals in their own domain, which is education and sport, coming together with the Agarkar Center of Excellence, which is education and sport. So with the education vertical, we do everything from curriculum design, relevant curriculum design, best practices, progressive thoughts, research. We work with parents, students, teachers, We build schools as consultants, but the sports angle just adds on to, complements it, because we have academies after school hours, we have in-school curriculum where there's a scheme of work. In this country, we're so invested in champions. We don't think the actual journey is about exposure. It's about getting the kids to play, getting the kids to fall in love with the game. We only want, I'm going to say this, we only want a Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli. We don't think of sport as fitness, life skills, learning, important foundational blocks, which is what the NEP is also talking about. So ACE is thinking about that in a way where it's okay. I mean, never make it to the national team, but I'm good, and that's a great recreation. And if the one thing the pandemic has taught us, and if I can see all my Insta posts, it's only fitness and food that I've seen. People are now investing in healthy eating and healthy lifestyles. We should have done this before. So ACE is about that. Sport exposure, age-appropriate learning. Every child can play. Every child should play, girl or boy, doesn't matter. And yes, you'll create teams out of it. After School Hours Academy, but the best part about it is the middle years program, where we're working with managements, where one division of that, in that particular year, in the middle school, is purely dedicated to sport. So while they do take on learning, they have more time to, enhance their skill, because really this is now a career. And by the way, the youth, there's a special committee under the youth wing, the youth ministry of sports and affairs. They have actually decided that there's going to be an academic board for people who want to specialize in sport, which is great, because finally the mothers will allow their kids to take on a sport as opposed to becoming an engineer and a doctor, and that hasn't changed. I do so many parent counseling sessions. नहीं फातिमा, ये क्या करेगा, ये फुटबॉल खेलकर क्या करेगा, उसको तो engineer ही बना दो. So that's the mindset hasn't changed. While we celebrate sportsmen, we are not willing to take the risk and put our own kids in it, thinking, will it be rewarding? But it is rewarding.
I'm glad, Fatima, that you brought up that सबको चाहिए कि अच्छा मेरा बच्चा तेंदुलकर बने या कोहली बने या PV Sindhu बने, for that matter. But the kind of effort which goes behind it, people don't generally, they celebrate that or they even talk about it. Like, we being a sports media publication, we come across so many stories. And I recently came across a story, a girl who is a motorsport athlete from Jammu and Kashmir, and I was simply blown away by her story. And we have such incredible stories in all parts of the country. That's 100% true. And I think there are, let's break this. This is a very interesting part of our conversation. Let's break it down to multiple subtopics that people don't encourage their kids to go in sports, probably because they don't see the ROI in terms of job security. Even maybe 1 out of 1,000 athletes reach a stage where they can earn decent for themselves, right? So probably the first step should be creating more alternative career options in sport, right? That is one thing. So how do you think can we bridge this gap between the possible options of having a sustainable career model in sports in India?
It's interesting you say this, because if you actually look at any of the UN statistics or any of the, industry reports about education, you will, whether it's, a KPMG report or whether it's a Barclays report, very clearly the careers of tomorrow are alternative. Anything that can be repetitive is going to become duplicated through technology. Today, you have an IBM Watson app that can give you a 95% accuracy, whether it's a bacterial infection or a viral infection. I mean, just by putting the symptoms in, that's that's an app for diagnosing healthcare. So doctors are gone then, if you think about it. But what the careers of tomorrow are going to be skilled careers. So one is, everyone knows that. I think there's been a lot of movement with a number of leagues that have started in our country. Lots of opportunities, whether it was Kabaddi, whether it was Kho-Kho, whether it was, of course, we've got legends like Sania Mirza and Sindhu led the way by doing well in their respective sport. And, leagues have started. schools have also started putting infrastructure in place because they recognize that this is going to put their schools on a map. More than that, I've just told you, we're going to have a national board for sport. So I think industry is doing their bit in creating opportunities. But you know what? Again, I don't have to only make it to the playing 11. I could probably play at the national level. I could play at the state level. I can play at a league level. I can also alternate between the ancillary services. So there's sports management, there's physios, there's sports agents now, agencies. So there are lots of career options, even if you don't make it, but you have to play the game to understand. I think these are the booming industries. Quite frankly, if you look at the pandemic record, it's IPL and all the sporting fields that have done really well. Everybody else is struggling in terms of their business. Of course, not food, but essential services have done well. But think about what the world of tomorrow is going to be. Now it's up to influencers and, quite frankly, the schools to bring it a top-down directive to say sport is going to take that importance in the curriculum. Sport is going to be rewarded. Sport is going to be recognized as a mark in the mark sheet. When you start thinking like that, you'll think like how Australia does. You'll think like how South Africa does. You think like how America does. They churn out. There was a survey done, I think in 2018. India's 37th on that list of great sporting nations in the number of sports that we produce. What's scary is that we're even lower than Syria.
Yep.
That's this small, and we are a nation of 1.3 billion people. I think the government's also, it has to be a government initiative. This Khelo India has come out with saying, we're going to give you land at a cheaper price if you all are going to invest in infrastructure. But to get the kids there is still going to be the parent responsibility. And that is now going to be up to the influencers, and I call the influencers the schools, who will put their foot down and encourage that, make it mandatory, and move that. Honestly, if we have a few more champions in a few more other sports, I'm very excited about Formula One. Daruwala has done really well. We need more success stories for parents to recognize that that's a very lucrative career. Golf. Yeah. We need more kids playing. This can only happen when it's a collective 360 effort, government, schools, parents, and the kids as well. I think we'll be then, won't be worried about our obesity levels, because my big concern is after America, we're up next for all the medical health problems, and we have the youngest population. Sport is not just going to address your career options, but it's also going to keep you fitter. And quite frankly, lucrative careers are going to be alternative careers. Today, an agent is earning more than, a mechanical engineer, and that's the fact. So think about that as you can.
Even like in my team, 50% of the people have studied engineering. So that's the fact. That's the numbers which we have. But people always look forward to. And one more thing, which I think is. Which is the driving force behind people in sports, that people who are in sports in any form, in any vertical, they're extremely passionate. And that's like in my team, we are in media, and people don't see it as a random 9 to 6 job. It's like, okay, match ho raha hai, raat ko 2 baje bhi ho raha hai. It's so much passion is there, and you can see the happiness in their eyes, and it gives another level of satisfaction, if I can call that. So that's
So then it's not work, right?
Yeah.
You're actually having so much fun, and when you have fun, you'll push that yard a little more.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not 9 to 5, because it's all about having fun. It's what you want to do. I used to sit on my computer and punch in those keys, doing my regression analysis for some spreadsheet that I had to put out. And I just realized, while I'm good at it, it doesn't make me happy at all. All I want to do is shut the computer and leave as soon as my boss leaves. Those were my younger days.
Yeah.
We can't be a country thinking about finishing. We have to be a country thinking about creating. And honestly, it's sport, creative arts, performing arts. These are the careers that will drive. And we are 1.3 billion people. I'm just very concerned that we don't have enough stories.
Yeah, and even like today, it's Saturday, right? When I was coming now, my mom said that, okay, office क्यों जाना है? मैंने बोला मुझे interview लेना है, I have to go. नहीं, Saturday छुट्टी है, मैंने बोला नहीं मुझे जाना है. So that's the kind of thing, because that too, majority of India, I mean, especially the tier 2, tier 3 places at the remote parts of the country, they have not yet come out of the cocoon of like chasing stability more than taking risk. It's very, as I told you, like even doing engineering and after the pursuing career in sports, the social battle is still there. There is no encouragement to that level which we expect probably. So that needs to change. Again, how will it change? It will come from the role models. And it's all like every element is interrelated. And, coming back to your...
but you know what? A lot of the career counselors today are pushing this message out. I was with another summit, it was a career summit. And I heard, other media professionals, like someone from, creative arts, performing arts and sport. They're all talking about the fact that, we have 18 million students going into industry year on year. Where are those 18 million jobs in traditional industries? So think of alternative. Think of what these can, and your starting pays. I mean, look at trends, parents and students. Look at the analysis. Why would you work for 20,000 when you know your upscale can be 50, 70,000 at a starting salary?
Yeah.
So, change is happening. It will happen if media plays a role. I believe strongly in social media. I think it's a big movement. And I think a lot of people need to come out and speak about it to create awareness. I've worked in schools in the north where I walk into a classroom and I only see boys. I don't see girls. And these are really small, modest schools. And it still bothers me that in 2020, it was 2019, we're still talking about girl-child education. So, we do have our problems as a country. It's not so simple. But I see a shift, and I feel if a lot more people come out and speak about it and create role models, maybe the news channels can actually talk about education and sports for a change in a way to build careers rather than what is happening in Bollywood and other arenas. I think we just need to create a lot more buzz around it.
See, I mean, democratization of media is a separate topic which we can talk about, and why media is the way it is at the moment. But then, see, necessity is the mother of invention. Probably that's how, my venture, we were born 3 years back, and we cover only stories of Olympic sports and lesser known sports, and we deliberately stay out of cricket because a lot of players are doing that already. Okay, and then when we started, a couple of people that okay nahi chalega, utne stories nahi hai, but we are surprised and like we are doing good. We have so much of viewership and readership in like every month by month. So ऐसा नहीं है कि story नहीं है. Story is definitely there. Like I'll tell you one example. Like India has produced one of the best cyclists in the country, and they are doing good on the global map. And a couple of Indian cyclists like Iso or Deborah, they hail from Andaman and Nicobar. Okay, now tell me, most of the media houses, because they are centered around Delhi, they won't focus in a story from Andaman and Nicobar, right? वो भी India का ही part है. Similarly, it happens from the northeastern part of the country, but now slowly, like because of Mary Kom, Hima Das, and rise of football, they are getting attention. But then, yeah, we, as you rightly said, we have a long.
No, but I love that. I love that because if we, in conversation with you, I've picked up about this young athlete from Jammu, and I know I will use that to motivate children because that's what we do. We talk to kids, and we talk to kids about role models. And there was I must tell you this. The Sports Gurukul had conducted a competition. What was incredible. And I'm so grateful that cricket wasn't the feature. So the kids had role models. Of course, Mary Kom is very popular. So is Sindhu. There were Paralympic champions. It was so refreshing. That means the message is going down.
And this is coming from Mrs. Agarkar. Okay.
No, because ACE is not only about cricket. ACE is about sport. Very clear. ACE is about sport.
Yeah. So that would have been my next question, that in ACE, because Ajit's expertise is more into cricket. He has been an international player for so many years. So ACE, is it only into cricket, or you have other Olympic sports as well?
No. So very clearly, I think one of the first things that we discussed as part of ACE is Ajit thinks about sport not as cricket, because that's it. I mean, he's a golfer now. He would have loved to be a footballer, but he wasn't good enough. So he loves sport. I mean, we enjoy F1 as much as we enjoy tennis, as much as we enjoy badminton or squash or TT. You know, it's a family that loves sport. So very clearly for Ajit, it's very important that children are exposed to multiple sports. Something he regrets wasn't part of his life. According to him, had he picked up golf or had he played soccer a bit more, you know, the whole coordination would have added to abilities. And this you can do when you're younger. You can't pick this up when you're in high school.
Yeah.
So the idea, I mean, think of the Australian model. Think of the South African model. Their kids play everything. You know, we don't specialize. I mean, they don't specialize. They're saying, no, you know, this is only now badminton. They bring badminton and squash. I mean, alternative strokes, if you think about it. Swimming. Big part of, according to, you know, Ajit, and for us it is exposure up to grade 5 to everything. Combination of indoor and outdoor. Combination of sedentary sports, contact sports, running. You know, I mean, it's very important. I think it's not just track and field, but what it contributes to each of the sports. So ACE is basically about exposure to everything, because it complements eventually what your area of specialization is, and including kabaddi. So, you know, but let's be honest, we can't do everything. In a school, you'll only have that much time. So what we do is we look at the infrastructure, we look at the capabilities of the coaches we have to bring in, and we also look at the demographics of the students. And then we put out a 3-year plan. That this is over 3 years, we will build these skills. So sports that are possible with the infrastructure, because we can't do everything. For me, skating is very, very important. I mean, so is swimming. It's not sport, it's just part of your DNA. It should be. Then we don't do enough. Our kids don't run enough. They're only running during a football. I mean, there's no concept of track and field in our country. Maybe I'm from Mumbai, so I think like that. The rest of the country has better infrastructure, but we still don't run enough. Yeah. So our philosophy is more fitness, skills that are built, which are multifaceted, and then eventually sports specialization. So yes, the cricketer's wife saying it's not only about
that's, I mean, we need people like you, Fatima, that I feel really good when, you know, cricketing, even like Virat Kohli supports a lot of non-cricket athletes via his foundation, and that's quite good. I think more and more people should step forward, because, you know, cricket brings that kind of mass appeal. And I think only probably a cricketer has a more social media power to encourage non-cricketing sports. Right, so that is there. So coming
and small stories. I mean, we'd love to, you know, as part of ACE, we'd love to, you know, follow you and learn from you, because these are the stories we have to tell our children. Yeah. You know, they're not going to read these. It's going to be their parents, and they're going to, you know, I don't know what they're going to do with that information. But I think it's the kids who get very impressed, and they'll dig deeper. And if there are motivational stories for them, you know, I'm going to learn a lot from this conversation, quite frankly, and I'll take away, you know, a lot to improve.
I think, Fatima, after this interview, maybe we will catch up for a call, and I can think of a lot of ideas on how can we work together in the longer run. So we will take that. And coming back to, ACE, I got a clarity on, you focus on sports in total. Now, the functioning of ACE, because you have been constantly talking about you partner with schools. So is it only in corporate term, is it a B2B model because you partner as an entity with schools, or is it a B2C as well, if any parent reaches out to you?
Right. Well, you know, the pandemic happened, so the B2C is something we're picking up now. We're very closely working now with governments, state governments, to propose our ideas. to create infrastructure that's independent of schools. That means a cluster of schools can also use that infrastructure. And that means parents come to us directly as opposed to just the schools. But the model at the moment is via the school market.
Okay.
So I think in the next 6 to 8 months, a lot of this will get concretized in terms of working with private bodies or state governments. The proposals are all there with them. Now it's about operationalizing it. Honestly, we're waiting for the unlockdown procedures in some of the states that we have initiated conversations with.
That would be brilliant, and let's be hopeful on COVID goes away soon. That's the only thing which we can do.
But a lot of private bodies are also interested. So, for example, in Chhattisgarh, we've been speaking to this industrialist. I have an NDA, so I won't mention details. But they're looking to build infrastructure simply because they have the land. And they think sport is the next big thing. They've got their schools and they've got their hotels and all of that. But they want to now build infrastructure where the community comes. Yeah. So it's not just governments, it's private bodies also saying, listen, we've done well, we have land, what can we do? But it has to be quality, quality coaches. It's not only about coaching, it's also about rehab, it's about fitness, it's about nutrition, it's about mental conditioning. For us at ACE, it's not just about skill development, it's that full body, mind, body, soul that we work on, including mental conditioning, because kids give up very easy. Yeah. So what can we do to motivate them, And not all our children are the same. Some are super motivated, some are just super lazy, and that's okay. Yeah. What can we do to help them?
Yeah, totally. So a very non-professional question, if I can call that. So you, the entire body of your work so far, since it's into education, hence it is more with children, right? Like understanding the psychology of children and working in a much more deeper level with them. So how has motherhood and being a mother for almost 15 years shaped up this entire thought process?
Oh, brilliant question. And I hope you were going to ask me this because I think I've become a better educator. Simply because of my own journey with my son. So nothing I say is, off the top of my head. And of course, I've worked with 1,000 children, so I know that. But I always think of my child in every child that I see. So when I'm even talking to a parent or a teacher about a strategy for the child, I would always think about, would I do that as a mother? Would that work for me as a mother? Would it work for me if I was a teacher to this child? I think that's helped me. It's made me a lot more insightful. It becomes personal then because on paper everything works, but the reality is going to be different. So it's very easy to sit and say, do this. Can you do it as a mother? So I think it's made me more realistic. So my book knowledge was thrown out and I became more practical. And I love children. So I think with my son growing up in the conversations I've had with him, I hope other parents could have with their children. So I think it's just made me a better person, motherhood, and honestly a better and a more insightful educator, if I can say so myself.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now coming back to parenting, be it education, be it sport, be it the kind of human being we want our kids to be in future, and that's such an important element. But then it's said that okay, parenting का कोई rule book नहीं होता और parenting का कोई formula नहीं होता. But then I feel that there are things which can be worked upon. For example, getting to know more about the situations, reading or understanding child psychology and a lot more. But in India, only probably the 10% of the India is in cities and rest of in other remote places. And it's more so in the rural part of the country that parents aren't much involved in the growth of the child in terms of sitting with them, talking to them, and knowing कि अच्छा आज school में क्या हुआ बताओ या फिर something like that. So is there any kind of advice maybe you can give to our audience, whoever will be watching this video, to how do we cope with it?
It's going to be tough. See, it's easier in the metros, like you pointed out, because there's access to, maybe experts or maybe sessions that parents can attend. And these are all free webinars now. But even previously, there were lots of these sessions conducted by schools, which just gives you strategies, quite frankly. I mean, we didn't, when I became a mother, it wasn't a degree I earned to, become a mother. It happens. And a large part of parenting is you learn on the job. But a large part of parenting is also being smart about what information to take from others, not following the herd. So sometimes you need direction. My advice to parents is that you've got to, pre-pandemic, if your role was 100%, post-pandemic, and for the next 10 years, it's going to be a lot different, where the dynamics have changed. You cannot outsource parenting. You cannot find an expert or a teacher or a coach to do what you're supposed to do. You're going to have to, and whether it's tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 cities, everyone's going to have to make an effort. I'm hoping the government and the budget schools in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and that's a big movement now, start talking to parents and conducting these, mini orientations, telling them do's and don'ts, as basic as that. I think a large part of the media contribution, where you bring these parents out and also recognize and celebrate their moments when they've supported kids. It's going to have to be led a lot by the schools, in my opinion, because otherwise the parent won't care. So for me, whether it's a top-end school or a budget school, it's going to be how important educators are communicating with parents and reminding them of the errors that are making. Mental health is going to be crucial in the next 5 years. You're going to have to be advised by someone about how you deal with a problem. These kids are going to, we're somehow out of the pandemic, in the sense schools are going to be open by Jan. That's the new news on the ground. We are now going to see an after effect. We're going to see trauma. We're going to see emotional disconnect. We're going to see a lot of that. So if parents start freaking out with that, it's going to be a huge challenge. The good news is, thanks to technology and thanks to the pandemic, a lot of people are working from home. Lots of people available, like you and I are talking on Zoom today, to connect and give advice, and not all of that is expensive. So you're going to have to use social media to find those people, and there are plenty out there. I think we're going to have to put a little more price to parenting than we ever did. We're going to have to be a bit more conscious. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So, Fatima, we will just wrap up the conversation. And I'm glad I messaged you on LinkedIn, and that's how we are chatting right now. It's such a lovely conversation. So, extremely thankful to you for saying yes to the interview, and let's stay connected. And any final word of message for the audience?
And I'm just going to say that parents, if your children are thinking about sport as a recreation, encourage it. Make sure you give them opportunities to play more. If they are thinking of it as a career, reach out to experts. There are plenty. I mean, use Google for those reasons. Use Insta for those reasons. Use Facebook for those reasons. LinkedIn is a great networking option. You'll find many like The Bridge available to guide, many like us at ACE to help you. We're all available. I think it's about effort, it's about initiative, but it's also about support. You won't have a Virat Kohli today if his parents hadn't supported him. We're celebrating his victory. We're celebrating India's victory. Sorry, I had to bring in cricket, but other sports, that's where the cricketer's wife comes in, right? Those are the anecdotes I have. But I'm just going to say I'm grateful to my mother-in-law to have supported Ajit. He would have been an engineer. I'm glad he became a bowler and now he's a golfer and a commentator. You need to support your kids to know what lies ahead. Even if they don't play for the national team, there are plenty of opportunities. You know what? They'll smile. They'll be mentally happy with what they're doing. And today, with the pandemic, I think it's very tough to find happy people. It's very easy to find many depressed people, very tough to find happy people. So maybe think of it like that. And of course, education is important. We're as an industry, we're very excited. Good things ahead for the children, and we're all working very hard for that.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you once again.